morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel. We kick off the trading day with yet another bleak forecast, unfortunately, for the domestic economy. Moody's Analytics says the Philippines is the, quote, clear laggard in Asia, noting that its economic outlook may only return to pre-pandemic levels by end of 2022 due to the sluggish vaccine rollout. Moody's Analytics says China, Taiwan, South Korea, and Vietnam have all returned to previous output levels, while Indonesia and Thailand are on track to return this year, making the Philippines the clear laggard in Asia. The research arm of Moody's Investor Service now sees GDP to grow by 5.3% for the full year 2021. That is lower than its earlier growth forecast of 6.3%. This is also slower than the government's revised full-year GDP target of 6 to 7%. Moody's Analytics also says vaccine hesitancy and supply constraints are posing a challenge to the slow-paced mass vaccination campaign. It says the pace is problematic because it means the country remains vulnerable to continued local infection spikes and could prompt the government to reimpose strict lockdowns to contain further infections. The latest data from the government show that more than 4 million vaccine doses have been administered so far. The government targets to inoculate as many as 70 million Filipinos by the end of November. Opening the markets with a look at global equities over in Wall Street, you can see on my terminal here, stocks climbed. That was led by technology companies as inflation anxiety appeared to be easing. Now let's take a quick peek as well at how Asia is opening and whether we are following suit here. Indeed, seems to be the case. The Nikkei 225 up by 0.6%. However, the Hang Seng still in negative territory as we await for more details on that. But you can see as well the Kospi staging a bit of a rebound up by 0.5%. But of course, what is in focus here is still the whole Bitcoin story. You can see that inching its way back to 40,000 after a deep V over the past 3 days. It is headed towards its biggest surge since February. Recall that over the weekend it plunged by as much as 18%. Now, another thing that investors are watching out for, apart from the equity space, are the commodities. And we've been looking at that BCOM index of Bloomberg. And you can see that here it is again up a touch this morning. But again, over the past month has been tapering off. Again, yesterday, most base metals were actually under pressure. Iron ore and steel were sinking as China is stepping up its fight against the soaring prices of the commodity sector. Now, meanwhile, let's take a look at the peso and how the currency is trading here. 48 levels yet. Again, we had already broken through 47. Although we are still stronger than we were yesterday, the peso had dropped while most other emerging Asian countries traded in a narrow range, that amid fresh virus curbing the risk appetite for emerging market currencies. Now, what type of curbs are we talking about here? Asia speeding up actions to tackle this. They are having plans to vaccinate more people, also faster testing. And also in Singapore, they've approved a COVID breath test. It's very interesting. It will give results in about a minute. Japan has also opened a large-scale vaccination center in Tokyo as well as Osaka. Malaysia is rolling out new curbs. Now, onto the domestic front, how are we opening? 6,100 levels still this morning, but that is still up by 0.2%. And today's focus will be on the banks. Let's take a quick peek at how our banks are opening this morning, up by 0.3%. This as the BSP has said that they are monitoring the vulnerable banks. So they said that the financial performance of the hardest hit sectors and highly vulnerable banks needs closer monitoring. That's as the non-performing loan ratio of the banks may climb further to exceed 6% this year amid the pandemic, according to the BSP. However, according to Governor Ben Diokno, he does mention that will remain manageable even as it will settle above 6% by the end of the year. Now, as to asset quality, he did mention that indicators weakened but remained manageable. Now, recall that we had reported that the earnings of the Philippine banks fell by nearly 33% to 155 billion pesos last year. And finally, speaking of the bank, Security Bank nevertheless injecting 750 million pesos in its SB Finance, which is leasing and a joint venture with the Thailand's Bank of Ayudhya. And that would be used to support business expansion, heeding the call of the Bangko Sentral for financial inclusion as well as tech infrastructure. Now, here to chat about the latest on the boards, we have with us Aaron Sai of First Metro Securities. Good morning, Aaron, and welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, good morning, Danny. Thanks for having me here.
Aaron, let's kick off with the general sentiment of the bourse here. This, as the PSE has mentioned, that it's actually the local investors which have really been picking up the stocks. They're now accounting for 74.3% of the stock market transactions in the first half of the year, significantly higher than we've ever really seen. Does that mean, this has been allowing us, nevertheless, to maintain our levels above 6,000? Is it okay to be relying on that, or are you waiting for net foreign buying to start coming back in to pull in the weight?
Well, definitely, it's a good news, no, that the local investors are somehow gaining familiarity about our stock market. But again, that ratio is only brought about by the low turnover in the market. No, so even if we have been seeing a lot of a lot of domestic investors compared with foreign investors playing the market, we have seen that the volumes have really dried up. No, so the significance of the bigger proportion is somehow muted, no? As we can see from the performance of the market so far. No, definitely, for if you ask me, definitely we would need the push, no, from foreign investors, as we have seen the previous bull runs. No, we have seen that the market was really supported and really somehow pushed, no, heavily by foreign money. No, so we need to see that first before we can gain more confidence on this market. But then again, that's on the price side. No, that's on the price action side. But fundamentally, I think fundamentally we are still I think okay. No, we're still okay. There is an overhang, no, from the pandemic, definitely. No, but as we have seen the vaccine rollout really progressing, maybe less than expected, no, but at least it's progressing. We hope that we can see the light of day after this pandemic. No, but when would that be? We don't know yet. No, that's why we think that the interest in the market, both on the local and the foreign side of the buyers of demand, would still be somehow muted moving forward.
But why the domestic interest and then the foreigners selling out? Is there, do they have different types of stocks that they're looking at? The foreigners are only really looking at the blue chips. And why the continued net foreign selling, even as you mentioned, it's kind of getting better, especially when it comes to the mobility curves?
Actually, the foreign investors, well, we know, no, we know that we are one of the many, no, of their choices, no, and we are one of the smaller choices for their portfolio. No, so if there's no really interesting ideas or investment thesis in the corporates in the Philippines, and definitely we would not get the attention that we want from them. No, for the domestic investors, I think we have the domestic investors are investing the same way they did before, no, maybe a little more, no. But then again, if we're talking about the proportion, since the foreign are not coming, then the proportions would definitely be bigger than before, no. But at the levels, no, again, as we have seen, the volume, the value turnover that we have been seeing in the past weeks, no, are really not at par, no, with the average that we have seen in the past.
They are talking about this from the PSE capital raising with a 200 billion peso target this year. If achieved, this would nearly double what it raised in 2020. Is this an achievable target? Is this a better time actually to be raising funds for companies compared to last year?
Well, in the perspective of the companies that would be listing, I don't think so. No, because again, definitely they would want a higher valuation for their equities, and if the sentiment is this down or this lukewarm, no, to say the least, no, then definitely the perception of value of whatever you will be offering to the public would be somehow muted. No, I think. It's a good target. No, it's a good target. 200 billion capital raise, no, for this year. But we have seen again the interest of the market is somehow not very exciting for the local bourse, even if the incumbents, no, the SMs, the ACs, the ALIs, no, are really going to deep valuation level, no, deep value level. They're not picking it up, no.
Mm.
Much less, I think, no, much less a newbie, no, in the stock market, where they cannot. Some doesn't even lend to research yet, no, since they weren't public before this one.
Okay, so you don't think that with the increase in retail investing and people, with some liquidity apparently in their pockets here, that smaller issuances might not be the way to go. There will not be enough appetite.
Maybe, no, maybe if the IPOs are limited to small, no, to small sized IPOs, then maybe in traders, not investors, no, traders interest would be picked, no. But if you would do another monde, no, maybe that would siphon off a lot of liquidity in the system, no, and maybe there would be not much of an interest from big investors if we do another monde. Aside from monde, there would be not much of an interest from big investors to really prop up trading for those new IPOs.
Quick talk on Monde. How are you seeing the new pricing here that has been cut to 13 pesos and 50 centavos?
Definitely, it's a welcome development now for investors, now foreign and local, as we have seen that the foreign institutional investors have really put some interest now in buying the IPO. Mainly because I think of the discount that they have given, no, for compared with their initial estimates. So I think we have seen the financials of Monde. There's really great potential for this stock. Now, as we have seen that almost all of what we're eating, especially when now we're staying at home, it's either URC or Monde Nissin. No, so I think there's a good fundamentals on this. The pricing is favorable, no, since they have lowered it from their initial estimates, and but the overhang now, I think, is the size of
Okay.
the issue. No, maybe we can get good value from this, but I'm not sure yet if it would fly based on
Very
the price.
interesting. Okay, but at least for the consumer side, it's an interesting price to be entering. Let's talk about some stocks to be watching out for here. PAL, seeking to raise $500 million for Chapter 11. Is this a welcome development, actually, that they are filing for Chapter 11 in the US and also getting money from both banks, local banks, but also from Lucio Tan? How does this actually move the stock price right now?
Well, for PAL, no, similar with other aviation companies, no, not only here but also abroad, no, but mostly here because of the restrictions or the tighter restrictions that we have been imposing, no. I think it's any good development, any good news is a good development for these stocks. No, again, they're fighting for survival. They have their utility, in normal times, but then it was really punctured, no, much more their financials when the pandemic hit us, no. So I think it's good if the new development would give them some lifeline, no. Again, we want PAL to be there after pandemic, no, definitely. We have few players here, main players being PAL and Cebu Pacific, and again, Cebu Pacific is not without its own problem. So I think moving forward, if needed, no, I think companies like PAL actually, I think, deserving, no, of even government's help.
Mm-mm. Which they have actually pitched for several months now. Finally, let's talk about Chelsea and why this jumped over that Dennis Oy stake in Specs, especially since the other Dennis Oy companies like Phoenix have considered to sell some assets as well. They've also just sold their to-go stake to SMIC. Why the excitement over an exploration of Malampaya, which might actually be running out of gas na rin?
Well, I think, no, if commodity prices would be favorable, no, the upstream business I think, would be more profitable for Dennis Oil than the downstream business in Phoenix, no. But then again, there's a consideration of the lifespan of the Malampaya. So, to be honest, no, I don't understand. No, I don't understand the rationale behind it. No, but definitely, if you're a businessman and you are reallocating towards a again, that's one of the possible reason. No? Maybe the profitability in upstream oil business is bigger than the downstream. But again, if the upstream source, no, if the upstream source is running out of running out of steam, so to speak, no, then maybe they're looking at a different scenario, or maybe a redevelopment of the oil fields there, no, or maybe a new study, no, after the lifespan of after the studied lifespan of Malampaya is over.
Okay, so there might actually be something there that we don't
I
yet
hope,
know
hope.
about. That hopefully, and investors are looking or waiting for that. Thank you so much, Aaron Sai, First Metro Securities.
Thank you, Danny.
Okay, checking in on the biggest headlines we are watching this morning. NEDA has listed 17 infrastructure and other development projects worth 395 billion pesos that will be up for review by the Cabinet Level Investment Coordination Committee. These projects are either locally funded or financed by ODAs, which are at different stages of the approval process. The agency also identified 26 more projects worth almost 1.4 trillion pesos as of mid-May that are already being reviewed by the NEDA's ICC Technical Board. Now, among the projects to be reviewed are the 175 billion peso Laguna Lakeshore Road Network project and the 80 billion peso Davao City Expressway project, both funded by ODAs. Generally, proposed infra projects have to undergo initial assessment by the NEDA's ICC Technical Board, followed by a review of the ICC Cabinet Committee. Of course, the NEDA Board, chaired by President Rodrigo Duterte, gives the final approval. The proposed Bayanihan 3 stimulus package will allocate 10 billion pesos. That's to provide temporary employment to repatriated OFWs. Now, the third stimulus package tasks the Labor Department with finding temporary jobs for pandemic displaced OFWs. The measure likewise allocates 400 million pesos for swab tests for returned workers and those leaving to work overseas. The proposed Bayanihan to Arise as One Act, or Bayanihan 3, will appropriate 405 billion pesos to pump the recovery with support for families and businesses. It has been approved at the House committee level rather. And the Senate has approved on the third and final reading Senate Bill 2208, which seeks to extend the estate tax amnesty for another 2 years. That is on the back of low revenues generated by the program so far. RA 11213, or the Current Tax Amnesty Act, that allowed taxpayers to settle unpaid estate taxes, is set to expire this June. However, bill sponsor Senator Pia Cayetano noted that applications for estate tax amnesty fell due to lockdown restrictions. Currently, revenue collections from the program stands at 2.5 billion pesos, which is still below the government's 6.28 billion peso target. Recall that the House version of the bill was approved in September of last year. And that's the first look into the business day. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. Catch Business World live for the market close at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.